I've grown up a lot, writing-wise anyway. It isn't so much small-town stories because we haven't been there for a while. You know, there's 10 boys together, you're going to talk about lots of different stuff. We started off the other night singing the theme tune from the Sweeney. We ended up talking about the pyramids. You know what I mean? How would you get from that to that? And that's the way the songwriting is, really. One day you're talking about the Sweeney, and the next minute you're talking about pyramids and did the Egyptians build them?
The lads kicked off 1999 with a visit to Japan and Europe to promote their forthcoming new album and shot a video for their new single, Just Looking. The single was unveiled on February 22nd, entering the charts at number 4. An exquisite, soul-searching gem in which Kelly asked, "Do I want the dreams, the ones we're forced to see? Do I want the perfect wife? The word perfect ain't quite right." Just Looking alternated between melancholy lament and existential self-justification. It would become one of the group's most popular hits. On March the 8th, the eagerly anticipated second album, entitled Performance and Cocktails, was released. Incredibly, it went straight into the UK album chart at number 1, a feat which was beyond even the band's wildest dreams. Containing 13 unforgettable songs, the record had been mixed by Al Clay, recorded at Real World and mastered by Ian Cooper at Metropolis Studios. There was less Kumaman-inspired material on the new album, as Kelly threw his net wider afield and absorbed new influences from his grueling travels. Roll Up and Shine depicts a New York performance art show. I Stopped to Fill My Car Up posits a whodunit mystery thriller scenario, and T-shirt Suntan deals with the shooting of a record company receptionist. I Wouldn't Believe Your Radio and Half the Lies You Tell Ain't True both portray the self-deceptions and frustrations of daydreaming Billy Liar figures without ever coming across as condescending or vindictive. She Takes Her Clothes Off is a revelation, a haunting portrait of the sad death of a 43-year-old woman clinging onto the dreams of her beautiful youth. Musically, the album was more refined, soulful, mature and reflective, exemplified by the stately beauty of bruised ballads like A Minute Longer and Is Yesterday, Tomorrow, Today. Mid-paced favourites like Hurry Up and Wait and the yearning, addictive Pick a Part That's New were the kind of happy-sad anthems of doubt that Noel Gallagher would have sold his grandmother for. As Performance and Cocktails sold over 500,000 copies in just 3 weeks and went platinum, the band sold out their UK tour and released Pick a Part That's New in May. It became their third top 5 hit, entering the UK singles chart at number 4. Already a resounding live favourite, it found a home in the collections of dance-weary music lovers who'd long assumed that memorable, tuneful adult pop had been extinguished from the charts. It was followed by I Wouldn't Believe Your Radio, released on August the 23rd and peaking at number 11. With Performance and Cocktails reaching UK multi-platinum status and selling over 1 million, they continued the tour to promote their album. They co-headlined the Tea in the Park Festival and headlined the sold-out homecoming summer gig at Swansea's Morpher Athletic Stadium, with a day of activities and special guests to 50,000 fans. They also appeared as special guests at the V99 Festival, the penultimate act before the headlining Suede, supported Aerosmith at Wembley and released Performance and Cocktails in the US and Canada on September the 14th. In addition, there was the Kosovo benefit gig with Paul Weller, Ray Davies and Noel Gallagher to squeeze into their schedule, not forgetting the November release of Hurry Up and Wait as the next single, complete with live tracks from the Morpher Stadium gig. It reached number 11 in the singles charts and preceded a 13-date sell-out British tour, which included 4 sold-out shows at Cardiff International Arena. European, Australian and American gigs were somehow crammed into the guys' exhausting itinerary, while Kerrang honoured them with Best British Band and Best LP gongs at their prestigious awards ceremony. To cap it all, the group realised another of their dreams when they hooked up with fellow Welsh legend Tom Jones to cut a barnstorming version of Randy Newman's classic Mama Told Me Not to Come. The inspired collaboration would see the light of day in 2000.
We practiced it every Sunday and Thursday for as long as I can remember. We've only ever stopped practicing when we got signed, which is a bit backwards really, isn't it?
At the top of 2000, the Stereophonics embarked upon a massive tour of the US and Canada with Our Lady Peace and the Charlatans, taking in many major US and Canadian cities. They did admirably, making significant inroads into a notoriously difficult market. They began the recording of their third studio album in June and headlined the Reading, Leeds and Glasgow festivals in August. Meanwhile, their only two releases of the year came in the form of solid gold collaborations, namely Kelly's contribution to Man-Child's Clichés Are True single and the hugely popular top 5 smash Mama Told Me Not to Come with Tom Jones. The latter, complete with remixes by Turtle K and Future Loop Foundation, not only revitalised the veteran Lady Killers' fortunes, but connected the guys with a wider mainstream audience. The Stereophonics regrouped and immersed themselves in their forthcoming long player. They saw out 2000 by playing The Who's Royal Albert Hall Charity Bash in November and performing a rasping, bluesy, soulful version of the Rod Stewart classic Handbags and Glad Rags on the Hootenanny New Year's Eve version of Jools Holland's later programme. This was an inspired choice of a cover, given Kelly's obvious debt to Rod's blue-eyed soul voice, and would bear fruit in less than 12 months' time. March 2001 witnessed the unleashing of the first single from the new album, Mr. Writer, which rocketed to number 5 in the UK singles chart. A vitriolic attack on music journalists, it began life as a piano demo recorded on a dictaphone. For months and months, the only lyrics Kelly could come up with were, "Mr. Writer, why don't you tell it like it is?" Originally, he saw it as something in the vein of ELO's Mr. Blue Sky, but an evening listening to Stevie Wonder's seminal Talking Book album, with unofficial fourth band member Marshall Byrd, kicked the song into shape and gave it a druggy, hazy feel, which took it to another level. The song, co-written with Marshall Byrd, contains such startling lines as "I'd like to shoot you all" and "Are you so lonely, you don't even know me, but you'd like to stone me," and leaves the listener in no doubt as to the subject of Kelly's venom. Unusually for such a hard-hitting lyric, the song connected with the public and became ubiquitous on radio stations all over the country. But, like a red rag to a bull, this essay of invective was taken to heart by music journalists en masse, provoking a torrent of scorn and abuse from hacks everywhere, most notably at the New Musical Express. On the 9th of April, the new album, Just Enough Education to Perform, hit the shops and was received with massive critical acclaim. It was initially intended to go by the abbreviated title of Jeep, but Daimler Chrysler objected and claimed ownership of the actual word Jeep. The bonus-enhanced CD-ROM included acoustic versions of 2 album cuts, Lying in the Sun and Step on My Old Size 9s, and a band interview. Incredibly, the 11-track opus went straight into the album charts at number 1 and sold some 140,000 units in the first week of release alone. Recorded at Real World and Mono Valley Studios, mixed by Andy Wallace at New York Soundtrack and mastered by Bob Ludwig at Gateway, the album featured Marshall Byrd on piano, backing vocals, harmonica and Wurlitzer, and Glenn Hyde on harmonica for Rooftop. The opening cut, Vegas Good Times, was fleshed out by Hazel Fernandez, Aileen McLaughlin and Anna Ross on backing vocals. Steeped in the pastoral balladry of early 70s albums such as John Lennon's Imagine, Neil Young's Harvest and The Faces' Ooh La La, Kelly & Co. had resolved to write a subtle, introspective record which would encompass instantly gratifying rockers, radio-friendly pop and profound contemplations. Oozing heart-on-sleeve sincerity and an increased musical sophistication, the album was easily their best effort to date. The pretty, charming Lying in the Sun is the equal of anything that Neil Finn of Crowded House could dust off, with its melancholy melody line and lyric about a street beggar. The words were inspired by Kelly seeing a beggar on a street in Portugal, which he describes as one of the saddest things he'd ever witnessed. The tune materialised whilst he was waiting for a taxi at home. The magnificent, brooding Step on My Old Size 9s is another highlight of the album, opening with the perennial query of confused young men throughout history. I'd like to know what it's all about. What's out there? Am I going to get old and laugh? Its open G guitar tuning was inspired by Kelly's friend from Birmingham, Adam, who suggested that he write something in it after a boozy night out. The album's beautiful closer, Rooftop, was originally sketched out onto a dictaphone and left for a while. Sometime later in the studio, Kelly started singing the melody in a key that was far too high. Marshall Bird loved it, and this version was quickly recorded onto a cassette and knocked into shape. The final coda was originally intended for another tune, Second-Hand Jacket, but was assembled together with the rest of Rooftop to complete one of the Stereophonics' finest moments. Watch Them Fly Sundays is a graceful, unadulterated, old-fashioned love song about the passing of time and the nostalgia for a past relationship. Written on a European tour in June 1999, it is a sad, swooning love letter of brutal honesty. Nice to Be Out, a song composed on a train journey through Germany whilst promoting the previous album, is as fine a combination of lyrical bleakness and raw power as anything by Kurt Cobain. The album's high point, though, comes with the second single, Have a Nice Day, destined for mass exposure on the Sunday Times television commercial. The song's infectious, effortlessly catchy melody is almost a dictionary definition of sunny pop, but the lyrics betray an unease with a homogenization of culture. Kelly penned the words following a conversation with a San Francisco cab driver who ranted about corporate communism. Released as a single on the 11th of June, Have a Nice Day peaked at number 5 and quickly attained the status of contemporary pop classic. This was followed by the release of Step on My Old Size 9s on the 24th of September, which made number 16. The enhanced CD version contained live acoustic renditions of the main track, Every Day I Think of Money and Just Looking. The recording sessions for the Just Enough Education to Perform album, however, hadn't gone smoothly at all. They were rocky to say the least, with Kelly's notorious perfectionism threatening to break the band up for good. It was the culmination of an intensely busy period in which the guys were working too hard and arguing about petty, trivial, non-musical matters. It reached a point where the trio were not talking to each other, but through 11 different crew members. Kelly was locked in the studio, ignoring Richard and Stuart's feelings and obsessively ironing out the record's rough edges. The nervy, awkward silences became alcohol-fueled spats, and Stuart and Richard became alienated by their leader's increasingly unhinged behaviour. A week after Richard had got wed, Kelly insisted that he hit the road with the band. In sharp contrast to Richard getting married and Stuart expecting a son, Kelly's personal life was in disarray. He broke up with his girlfriend and was hitting the bottle far too much. Faced with the prospect of lonely nights at home, he embarked on a solo acoustic tour, but he soon realised he needed the other two band members. Meanwhile, the guys ran into some touring difficulties throughout the year. On the 25th of April, they were forced to cancel their concert in Hamburg after Kelly was diagnosed with flu, which in turn led to the chest infection that postponed the North American tour in May. In September, they cancelled their rescheduled North American tour as a mark of respect for the victims of the horrific September the 11th terrorist attacks on the US. They were due to perform 7 dates between the 14th and the 24th of October, including a gig at the Irving Plaza in New York. Then, on the 9th of October, they were forced to pull out of a Milan gig after a Scandinavian Airlines jet collided with a light plane in heavy fog and crashed at the airport, killing 118 people. Fortunately, the boys were able to continue their European tour in Germany and even supported U2 on 3 dates in the US in October and November. The band's work ethic got the better of them when they had to pull out of the ceremony for the first ever Welsh Music Awards on the 31st of October. The Ritz were scheduled to take place at the Cardiff International Arena on the 27th of November, with the group penciled in to perform alongside the likes of the Super Furry Animals. They were nominated for Best Live Act, Best Group, Best Album and Best Single, but their touring commitments prevented them from attending. The ceremony was postponed until January the 14th, 2002. Despite being nominated for 4 awards, Best Band in the World Today, Best Live Act, Best Album and Best Single, they missed out on silverware at the Q Magazine Awards ceremony at London's Park Lane on October the 29th. They were beaten to these gongs by Radiohead, the Manics, Travis and Ash. As a special DVD and video box set of the Live at Cardiff Castle, Live at Morpher Stadium and the video collection was released on the 5th of November, Stewart did his bit for charity by auctioning some Stereophonics memorabilia. He attended the Butterfly Ball at Cardiff's Marriott Hotel to help a charity provide a home for children with life-limiting illnesses at a children's hospice in Wales. On November the 7th, the Stereophonics were announced as nominees for the Big in Japan award, representing Best International Act at the My VH1 Music Awards, due to take place on December the 2nd at Los Angeles Shrine Auditorium. They were also included on the soundtrack to the forthcoming American film I Am Sam, due for release in the US on December the 28th. Kelly and the boys were among many artists who had recorded Beatles cover versions for the soundtrack to the film starring Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer. Their stab at Don't Let Me Down stood up well alongside the likes of Ben Harper's Strawberry Fields Forever and Nick Cave's Let It Be. As the year drew to a close, the Stereophonics issued their sensational cover of Rod Stewart's Handbags and Glad Rags as a single, backed by equally magnificent renditions of Roberta Flack's First Time Ever I Saw Your Face and John Lennon's How. The latter was recorded for a Channel 4 tribute show. Shine On and Handbags and Glad Rags and First Time Ever I Saw Your Face were cut with Jules Holland and his Rhythm and Blues Orchestra. A second CD featured the title track Nice to Be Out and Caravan Holiday in acoustic form, taken from Kelly's acoustic solo tour of November. Their swooning, inspirational reading of Handbags and Glad Rags was released on the 26th of November and looked destined to rule the airways for the festive season. Now with a lineup boosted for live performances by guitarist Scott James and keyboard player Tony Kirkham, the trio were able to capitalise on their huge success by performing at bigger, grander venues. They completed 2001 with a series of sell-out gigs at Wembley Arena, London Docklands Arena and Manchester Evening News Arena. Meanwhile, Kelly had completed a script entitled A Hangman's Tale, which had circulated amongst numerous movie producers and bigwigs. Rumour had it that it was to be turned into a film with Billy Connolly in the starring role. Yet another of Kelly's seemingly impossible dreams looked set to come true.
The story is Richard didn't want to do any interviews, so he only got a tattoo and me and Kerry had to do them all. That's the story.
It is to the Stereophonics' credit that they doggedly refuse to play by the rules of the PR game. They ignore the London-based media circus, trading on their pocket dramas and symphonies instead of cartoon caricature personas or outlandish lifestyles. So what is it that drives these unassuming characters to make their music? Stuart Cable, the only Stereophonic not to have a house in London, keeps himself rooted in Cumaman with his wife Nicola and young son. He likes to drink and play football with friends when he's not performing or rehearsing with the band. He counts Welsh comedian Max Boyce as one of his friends and regularly plays golf with him. The big-haired drummer still feels like the young man who used to drive the school dinners van, just with a better job and more money, and cannot believe that kids want his autograph when they approach him in the street. There's no chance of him developing a big star attitude, and he keeps the others centred and humble. He likes the odd tipple, prompting Oliver Reed comparisons from Kelly, and cultivates an air of bonhomie which invariably infects everybody around him. Even on the darkest day, he can lift others' spirits with a joke or encouraging comment. Apparently the shyest member of the group, he compensates by acting the clown when around his tour mates, inviting comparisons with archetypal rock and roll drummers of the Keith Moon and John Bonham vintage. He claims that if the band folded tomorrow, he would go to heaven completely satisfied and content. All he wanted at the beginning of the band's career was to get a nice house with a bar, pool table and swimming pool. And he's achieved this. He invests most of his earnings in his son's education, as he wants him to enjoy the opportunities he missed out on through laziness and lack of cash. His only regret is that he didn't stick around much for the just enough education to perform sessions. He couldn't wait to get back home, which is where he's happiest. Despite the Harley-Davidson motorbike, the rock star myth holds no allure for him. Bassist Richard Jones, described by his bandmates as a zen-like calming influence, is renowned for his bizarre collection of homemade tattoos, a hangover from his teenage days. The pale blue Richard tattoo inscribed on his neck frightens people when they first meet him, but his attempt to get it removed at Harley Street ended in failure. He now tries to absorb his teenage follies into professionally rendered designs. Happily married to Gail, a fashion stylist, illustrator and designer, and residing in London's Swiss cottage, his rock star earnings are spent on his collection of motorcycles. He currently has 4, but 2 others got run over and stolen. The creative linchpin, Kelly Jones, is regarded as a typical Gemini, a moody, unpredictable talent by those who know him best. Home is now a half-completed house in Cwmaman, as well as a flat in Fulham, West London, with new partner Becca, who works in advertising. As kids, it was always his job to tell Richard that some of his tattoos weren't spelt correctly, and it's his drive and push that have propelled the group to supernova success. The first record he bought was AC/DC's Flick of the Switch, and he can't believe that he now plays venues, such as Wembley Arena, that it took his heroes 7 studio albums to reach. His role models now are the likes of U2, a band who've managed to combine popularity with critical acclaim, longevity with ceaseless invention, and he regards Oasis's What's the Story, Morning Glory, and Nirvana's Nevermind as the 2 finest and most important albums of the post-punk era. Among his biggest heroes and influences are AC/DC, The Faces, Bad Company, Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, Tom Jones, Richard Burton, Ian Rush, Dylan Thomas, Max Boyce, Roald Dahl, Billy Connolly, John Sullivan, Stanley Kubrick, his dad, and the man who delivered him into the world. He regards his father, Oscar Jones, in particular, as a huge inspiration. He played working men's clubs for years and was even signed to Polydor Records. Kelly's current favourite listening is Massive Attack, Bob Marley, Arthur Conley, The Charlatans, The Kinks, Gladys Knight, Star Sailor, Turin Breaks, Destiny's Child, and early Stevie and Aretha. The things which get up his nose include the worshipping of critics' faves like Radiohead, the champagne and cocaine hedonism of the Groucho Club set, his mullet in the 1980s, Limp Bizkit and new metal, the Inland Revenue, nationalists, anal train spottery types, incompetent school teachers, jobsworths in uniforms, and the banality of tabloid culture. He couldn't care less what critics think of him and his band, in particular the accusation that he's about to go solo for good. Kelly loves Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. His girlfriend first read it on her tube journey to and from work. He started reading it in Japan, where the book is set. He also loves Nick Hornby's How to Be Good, but his hectic schedule means that he often gets halfway through a book and abandons it for another. Kelly has never had any time for the loser mentality of underachieving indie guitar bands. From day one, he wanted to be the biggest and the best. His aim is to create 3-minute pop songs of quality which hook the listener and provide an escape from his or her everyday life. There can be no doubt that he has fulfilled his aim. The Stereophonics crew is a tight-knit one, including childhood friends and Kelly's older brother Kevin, so the chances of self-indulgence and egotism are always minimised. This amiable, one-for-all mentality keeps the band down to earth and focused on the things that matter.
Long-term as a band, we just always want to be a band successful in every country if we can. We don't just want to be a British band that people only read about in The Enemy and Melody Maker. We want to be a band that plays in Australia, America, Germany, France, Japan, and just spread our wings and always progress as songwriters in a band, you know. Always criticise what you do and improve on it next time. And we're probably our biggest critics.
Small-town life, in all its simmering tensions and mysteries, has inspired Kelly Jones to invent a series of evocative word portraits of outsiders, people who don't quite fit into the mainstream of life. Allied to sturdy, soulful guitar rock, his eloquent lyrics about infidelity, gossip, intrigue and murder have made the Stereophonics one of Britain's most highly touted rock and roll bands today. These tensions, common to any place where everybody knows everybody else, have helped this remarkable band's music to to attain widespread popularity far beyond most of their peers. Universal themes plus anthemic choruses equal dynamite. Unlike so many of their myopic contemporaries, they are a band who are alert to the history of music around them and can confidently assimilate the stylistic influences of the best of yesteryear. Whether invoking the Faces, Bad Company, Free or Stevie Wonder, they can absorb the lessons of these great teachers without sanitizing the classics or diluting their own rollicking sound. They have now reached a stage in their career where they can afford to be brave and shake things up, reinvent themselves, experiment with their sound and consider all kinds of radical directions. Whilst a shift towards drum and bass or nu metal isn't likely to figure on their agenda, their cover of Rod Stewart and the maturity of their latest album indicate great promise for the future. One can see Kelly developing into one of Britain's highly respected songsmiths, and the band consolidating their position as a consistently intelligent outfit. The Stereophonics might now be considered bona fide rock heavyweights, but the fact remains that they are regular guys, ordinary people, and yet their majestic rise has been anything but ordinary. The Stereophonics music flowing from Kelly Jones is born out of turbulence, pain and confusion, and their beautifully formed pocket dramas are now sounding bigger and richer than ever before. Moreover, with strong roots and an unbreachable set of friendships to draw on, the Stereophonics will cope when their burgeoning fame and fortune rocket into the stratosphere.
Thanks for buying Maximum Stereophonics, we hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for further titles on Chrome Dreams coming up soon. If you did enjoy or have any comments or suggestions, write to us at Chrome Dreams, PO Box 230, New Malden, Surrey, UK, KT36YY, or email on mail@chromedreams.co.uk. Details of our full catalogue are listed on our website at www.chromedreams.co.uk. Thanks again for listening and goodbye for now.